Okay, so as an introduction to geometry, it's important that we start to define some words that we're going to use pretty frequently in geometry. So I'm going to pull this paper up here a little bit closer where you can see it. These are the definitions that you have on your handout. A point is just a location in space that has no size. So a point is exactly what you think it is. It's a point to that place, and that's where it's at. So if I wanted to draw a little picture up here, let's say this is the plane, this little square. A point would just be random spaces on that plane. There's a point, there's a point, there's a point, and so on. Anywhere that I point to in that plane is a point. Space would be the set of all points. So in this particular example, the set of all points are these 4 points that I just drew here. We call that a space. So it's just a space, a location in space where these points are. A line is just a series of points that extend in two opposite directions. So between any 2 points, I can create a line. So let's say that I have these 2 points right here. If I wanted to draw a line between them, that would be a line. It doesn't have to end at those 2 points. It can continue on forever, and we denote that by putting little arrowheads on the end of the line. So those little arrowheads mean that that line extends in either direction forever and ever. Okay, and that's the definition of a line. In order to have a line, you have to have at least 2 points. A plane is just a flat surface with no thickness and contains many lines. So in this case, on this paper, the plane is the paper itself, or this little box up here that I've drawn. So the orange box here that I've drawn is the plane, and inside that plane you can have an infinite number of lines. So here's a line. You can have a line between those 2 points. You can have a line here, here. You can have an infinite number of lines that go inside of that plane. So a plane is just a collection of a bunch of lines. The way that I think of it is you start with a point. If you add another point and connect them, you get a line. If you take a bunch of lines and connect them, you get a plane. All right. Collinear means that points that are lying on the same line. So in this case, if I wanted to say collinear, this point, this point, this point is all on the same line. Those 3 points are collinear. If I had a point up here, this point is not collinear because it's not on the same line. However, if I connected a line down through here, these 2 points would be considered collinear. So collinear just means any points that lie on the same line. Coplanar is any points and lines that lie in the same plane. In this case, we can say that everything on the paper has actually coplanar. So these lines that I drew up here are all coplanar. The points are all coplanar because they're all on the plane of the paper. Something that would not be coplanar is if I held my pen up here above the paper, that line and that point is not coplanar. A perpendicular line out of the paper would also not be coplanar. It'd be on a different plane. So the definition of a plane just means it lies in the same plane. Collinear means it lies on the same line. All right. Another big thing we'll see in geometry is the word postulate or axiom. And a postulate basically just means it's an accepted statement of fact. It's something that we start with. It's something that we know to begin with. And we're going to come up with a couple of them down here at the bottom here in just a second. A segment is a part of the line with 2 endpoints. So in this case, notice up here, let's say if I have this line, the lines with the arrow means it's a line. But if I take and I put 2 points on here, this little orange, between these 2 orange dots, we consider that to be a segment. So that is a line segment that exists inside of this line, which goes on forever. A segment ends, all right? It's between 2 points. That segment right here, this circled part between those 2 points, that is the segment. The line goes no further, all right? So the segment exists on the line. A ray is part of a line with 1 endpoint. And I have a little note here that says the opposite rays form a line. So a ray is basically, I start with a point and I have a line come out of it like that. All right. It has a terminating point here, but the little arrow on the end means it extends forever in that direction. Notice for that second part, if I drew a line in the opposite direction from that point, look at this shape and then look at the green shape up here. They're the same thing. So whenever we have two rays that go in exactly opposite directions, that forms a line. Those are just some definitions to play around with. Take some time to study them and learn them. Those are very important for geometry. And in the next video, we'll talk about the postulates. Thank you.